Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to a new episode of React Daily. This is episode number 5, I believe. We're working this up, guys. We're working this up. Wow, I'm up pretty early today, 7:10 a.m. Pretty proud of myself. Anyways, I want to talk about, skip the BS. I want to talk about MERN, right? I'm sure for the beginners, for anybody who's doing developing, you definitely have heard of MERN. You definitely have heard of like full stack MERN. You maybe have heard of MERN, which is Angular instead of React. But today I want to show you guys some code that integrates these technology, like the part where the backend integrates with the database, and then with MongoDB, and then the part where the front end React connects with the backend. So first of all, MERN allows you to make any website, and it is just a really established technology. Like, a lot of people use MERN, but if you are like, MERN isn't the it is not the one best way. It really depends on what you know. So by that I mean, if you don't like to use Node.js but you are good at PHP, you can integrate React with PHP. Everything works. Like, as long as you have a front end framework, front end library even, or just even playing HTML CSS in the front end, and then you have a back end technology, and then you have a database technology, then you can integrate any of them together. Now there might be some that are easier to integrate, and that's usually because that there's tons of documentation, and then you can find a lot of tutorials on it, and one of them being MERN, right? But really though, somebody just knew how to do React, MongoDB, and Node, and then just put them together. By Node I mean Express and Node. So let me show you guys some code. To see where everything is integrated. So let me zoom out. So what I have to my left here is actually, this is only React. This thing right here is created with React app, which means it's only the front end. Let me go to I think this one has some backend. Oh yeah, this is an authentication app that a tutorial I'm working on. If you look at MERN, every single MERN application, I think, is readable by anyone, because, I think people make their MERN apps in a really similar formats, right? We make it into a client side, and then we make it into a, and then there's a, and then on the, so this is the entire package, and then we have inside a folder that is a client side item, but the other things that are on the same, the backend is on the same level as the client side, right? So the server is on the same level as the client side, and that results in two package.json, and package.json is like just imagine as something like, you can look at it to see what files you have installed. So for the back end and then database stuff, you want to install it on this folder, and then for like the front end libraries like materialize UI, I don't know, you're not going to use that for the back end, so you want to install it inside of the clients right here. So let me show you guys some code. It's going to be really quick. Well, yeah, again, a lot of people I think use the same formats, at least for the few ones I've read, roughly the same formats, because I think people just followed some tutorial, and then the tutorial had a really good, to start out in MERN, you probably you probably had to look up a tutorial. It's going to be really hard to integrate these technologies by yourself, without any like sample code or good documentation. So, we all looked at some tutorial, and in that tutorial had really good formatting and way to put your stuff, right? Just really good designing for the the folder designing that we just use it. So I think the MERN projects you're going to see are going to be pretty similar. So we have a server, right? Server does whatever. Server connects the back end. So this is where the back end connects with the MongoDB. This is not where the back end endpoints exist. So just by writing this, you cannot go from the front end to the back end, because you do need to make an address where your front end can call to the back end. This is merely connecting. Well, actually, just ignore what I said, I think. Yeah, but this is connecting connecting Express with MongoDB. And that is done with Mongoose, which is just a package. Yeah, right here, and then yeah, this will be connection. And so after you connect the backend with the database, here are some functions that's the backend communicates with the database to get data. Let me go to this is a simple, and by the way, these are the actual endpoints, but we can see here user is requiring a model / user, and then if we go to this big user, this is actually a Mongoose model. So by requiring user here, we get access to the MongoDB model, and then we can, in the backend, in Node, Express's backend, we can just do that model, and then we can do stuff like find one, because now we have access to the documents, and then we can find the individual objects in the documents if we want, and then we can definitely do a lot of other stuff with it. There are tons of methods, and really to best learn MongoDB, I believe it's just the documentation is actually pretty poor in my opinion. Everything is over the place, but go in there and just read some of the functions, and then you're gonna have a better idea. Yeah, so that's really the connection between backend and database, and of course there's user.find1, and there's also something like .save. Where can I find a .save? It should be under register. Yeah, so you can make a new model. You can make a new object of that model to save in the document, right? Document are basically these MongoDB collections. Yeah, so then here you do where's save? Yeah, new user.save saves the stuff from the backend to the database. But okay, so here then, right, we're saving stuff from the backend to the database. But here's the interesting thing. I mean, not really interesting, but here's where everything connects. Where do you get that data to save in the backend? You get it from the front end. The front end, for a user, you probably have a form. Let me just run a random website. I'll just run my website. I'm gonna run the last website I built, and if you guys are interested in how to learn data science, how to learn machine learning, I compiled a lot of these roadmaps from like other sources. So let me log out of my website, log in, and let's do sign up. And right here, this is the form, right? And then when I press register, the front end sends that information to the back end, and then the back end can in turn create a new user object, and then just do that user.save, right? And then do other stuff. So then the question is how to connect the front end with the back end. It's really easy. You probably do this. You probably have done this even if you've never done website development. You probably, if you do Python, you definitely use the request library, which allows you to make HTTP requests. And I cannot find anything that is. Okay, so right here. That right here is how you connect is how you send data from the front end to the back end. It's not necessary connection, right? Like we don't have an established server that's listening to the to this app calling to the Node backend. you know, like that is it's not how it's done, you know, because everybody can call to this endpoint, whatever. But this fetch thing allows you to send data from the backend to the front end, and the fetch, when it's mapped out, is really just an HTTP request, I believe. And then because there's also another form which is like XML, I forgot the name, XML request, and that is what Axios, the library Axios, which is also similar to fetch, that's what Axios maps to, but fetch maps to HTTP requests. However, I'm not 100% sure on that, but like it's fine even if you know the false information, to be honest. Actually, it's not fine. So let me just look it up. Okay, it's not the XML HTTP request. So fetch is probably it's just some sort of request. Like, I don't think it's beneficial to dig too deep and confuse you. Just imagine as a request. So that's how you connect the front end with the back end. And then if you want to know how it's done in Axios, which directly maps to XML requests, this axios.get, and then where the API exists. Oh, I didn't talk about the API. So this thing right here looks kind of confusing, like /API/user/login. What the hell is that? Now in MERN, you want to be using proxies, because your front end is going to, like, for localhost, for example, your front end cannot be coexisting. Like, your front end is going to be on port 3000, but your back end is not going to be on port 3000. It's probably going to be on something like, you know, any other number, like 5000. So, but when you do fetch assumes that you're coming from the same origin. So if you do just fetch, let me see, /API/user/login, I believe it is going to try to take you to wherever your front end exists in, and then / whatever the rest. So for me, since my front end locates on 3000, it's going to map to this, which I don't want, right? Because my backend exists on 5000. So you go to change that, you go to proxy, which is here. You just do that. Sometimes it's not going to work. For example, this thing right here does not really work right now, but I believe it's like a create React app bug or something that I'm facing. Anyways, ignore that. Just know that you have to use proxy sometimes. So, right, this really maps to then HTTP /localhost 5000 /API/user/login. So where does that take us? Now we can find that in the backend if we go to, first of all, server. And then we see, we read, and then we see, oh, so it looks like if somebody calls to /API/users, we're going to use this users thing, and that we can then in turn go to here, right? Because users is required routes /API/users. We come to here, and then and at that point we cut the /API/users part off, so we don't have to write for every single one of them, and then we take the rest and then we map it if it's register or login or whatever. So that's really it for the integration of MongoDB. As a summary, I would like to just say MongoDB is actually not the only way to do it, but it is really good, and it has relatively good, maybe not documentation, but it has good tutorials, community, and templates, whatever. So thank you guys for watching. See you guys. Hey guys, welcome back. In this one, we're going to be training the actual neural network, which will later in turn allow us to make predictions of the the Spanish, of the English or German text. Yeah, let's get started. What I'm going to be doing is completely just following this tutorial. I'm going to post it in the description below, but go to this link right now so you can be copy and pasting along with me. Now, copy and pasting is of course not always the best practice, but I believe it is totally fine if you're just starting out. I personally believe that it is way better to make a few projects that you copy and pasted codes from different places instead of like learning the basic math and then like being unmotivated because you never made an application in machine learning. But first of all, here's the code that I'm just going to straight up copy and paste. First of all, actually, before that, yeah, so let me just delete everything. Showing an external. By the way, this IDE I'm using right here is called Spider. It comes along with Anaconda. You can download Spider inside of Anaconda, and I really suggest using Anaconda for beginners because I think it's really easy to tune stuff like the virtual environments, because you can just it has a really simple GUI where you can create a new environment, that specify the Python version, and then install new packages to have new environments. And then when you want to use that environment, you go back to the Anaconda navigator, you change the environments, and your Spider will be automatically in that environment. And Anaconda comes along with other tools like Jupyter and RStudio if you're using R. But before that, let me delete everything besides DEUTXT because wait, I was able to delete that? I thought it would say something like file is open so you cannot delete. Okay, that's kind of weird. Alright, but first of all, get the DEU.txt from this right here. So download the zip, open it up, and then unzip it in your folder of choice. Yeah, the second file. There should be two files in the zip, and then one is just about me and one is the other one. So if we take a look, this is what it looks like, right? So we have the English to the German mapping, or sorry, is this German? Yeah, this is German. Few things we have to do. As we can see right here, we got to prepare the text. We don't want punctuations. We don't want I believe you don't want spaces, and a couple other stuff. And of course, the uppercase and lowercase. So to clean the text, to make it so that we don't have all of these symbols, let's open up a new file. Let's just save it as clean.py, just clean. And then, yeah, whatever, just copy and paste this, and I'll explain when we're doing it what this code does. Copy and paste this. If you don't have the if you don't have the packages right here, I believe everybody should have pickle, numpy, string. But if you don't have it, and you're using Anaconda, then just do conda install and then the package name. Or you can install pip inside of Anaconda and then use pip install, or you can just do in the global pip outside of Anaconda, and then not use Anaconda in that case. But I'm using Anaconda, so I did conda install to get these packages. So a couple functions, right? Helper functions. First of all is load a entire document, so we're loading this, and then we're going to turn every single one of these lines to pairs, right? So we're going to make this into an entire list, and then we're gonna, make it into a list, and then we're gonna clean every single index of the list, which will be this pair, and then we're gonna append it to a cleaned array, right? This array is going to be cleaned. So at this point, clean pairs is going to be cleaned, and we can just save the data. Let's run this. And then we're loading the file from deu.txt. Right, so everything should be good. Yeah, so it's right here. It is 0 bytes for some reason, even though it should be more. Oh no, it's printing something, so it should be fine. Yeah, so we're printing wait. Uh oh. Okay. But anyways, so if we print the okay. Oh wait, never mind, never mind. Yeah, so if we print the clean pairs, and then we print each index of the clean pairs, we can, and then we print the index 0 of each of the pair is going to be the English, and the index 1 of the each of the uh index 1 of each of any pair is going to be the German. So yeah. So as we can see, we have the mappings here. We got to split our pairs, our training data, into a training set and a testing set. So it seems kind of counterintuitive that it's a training data to train and test, but um, but the reason that we have a test out of nowhere is because when you're training a neural translation model or any neural network, what often happens is that your model overfits to the data set, and you can imagine overfitting as finding a best fit line that isn't going to be the best fit for the future examples. Uh, right? It's really a best fit right now, right? Like it goes through every single data point, but it's not going to be good when a future data point comes in. So then we use a testing set in order to find out if our training set is overfitting or underfitting or other circumstances. So let's split our stuff right now. We're going to be splitting this English-German package, and I guess we can make a new file, whatever. Split. And then let's copy and paste this right here. Just run this, and then if it runs successfully, we should see this right here. Yeah, so the both and the German, English, German should be the same thing. Yup. Wait. Yeah. Okay, so now we can get to training with the test and train. I doubt that we're not gonna be using both. So for this, I'm also gonna just be copy and pasting the code, and then later explaining a few key functions that allows us to do the magical work. And if you're a web developer, I'm sure that a lot of people tell you that machine learning is a lot of math, but for implementation wise, you're going to be using like TensorFlow. I already have a train script for some reason. Let me save over this. You're going to be using a lot of libraries to do the work, so you don't have to implement everything from scratch, right? It would be stupid to do so. Let me just run this. It should work. Okay, so we can see our model right now. This is printed with the model.summary function. And where is that? Yeah, print model.summary. We can see that we have a few embedding layers and then LSTM layers. So I'm going to be explaining that in a second. First of all, I want to make sure that the epoch number 1 does run successfully. Okay, so it works. Alright, so let me go through a few key functions. So what you're seeing right now, the highlighted text is where we actually are running all of this epoch thing, epoch 2. But first of all, we can see that it's model.fit, which means this fit function belongs to something called the model. So what is this model? This model is defined in, right here, layers Hello guys, welcome back to the third video I believe in the series, and in this one we're not going to be doing any machine learning, but we are going to be building the front end of our website with reactJS. So first of all, open up a folder with ID of your choice. So I use Atom, so I opened it with Atom, and then go into that directory. Then type the following. First of all, let me get the path to this. Web ML translator. So go into your folder and then type create react app and then client. Now if this shows up an error, that will mean you don't. Let me see if I'm even recording this. I don't think you guys can see this. Yeah, now you can. So just type create react app and then this will be the name of your app, and that will be the front end. However, if you never used React before, you don't have create react app installed, and that means you would have to use npm install create react app, or if that doesn't work, try npx create react app, and if that doesn't work, just consult Stack Overflow. Thank you. So this is going to take a while. I really don't know why, but it's getting slower and slower for me every time I build stuff up with the create react app. Maybe it's because there was an update, and ever since that update it got slower. But anyways, so in the meantime, I'm going to be explaining a bit about what we're going to be doing, and then I'm just going to cut to when the app is finished building. So this is going to be our app, our website, and then under it there's going to be a client side, aka the front end, and there's going to be a backend, the server, whatever you call it. Those two are going to be in different folders because they don't directly the content that they consist of do not directly interact with each other, meaning I don't have to load stuff from the client in the server, right? Like they can call to each other, but you know, they don't share files. So well, later what's going to happen is we're going to make a new folder called server, right? Or yeah, we can just call it server, whatever. And then inside of here we're going to create our flask endpoints, and what would those look like? It's going to be, I'm just creating a random txt file, and it's going to be something like def, I'm in a Chinese mode, API/predict, and then it's going to have something like load. So we're going to pseudocode, this is pseudocode, we're going to load the classifier. Actually in our case it's going to be it's not a classifier at all. It's a neural machine translator model, right? From the this is the model.h5 that we should have saved from running the training script in the last video. And then now we have the h5 file. What we can do is we can so what we can do is just simply model.predict with the, now predict, we're going to be predicting some sort of data, right? And that data is going to be coming from the front side. And then how do we get the stuff that is sending with the request? It's going to be something like request.json dots, some sort of stuff like this, request.json dot form data, I don't know, some sort of stuff that has to do with the request that is sent here. And then after you do the predict, it's going to be like returning the result. and that will automatically send back the in pseudocode that is going to send back data to the client side, and we can send back stuff like a success message, or if we want to actually send back a result, we just send back the result, and then we can display the client. So at this point, let me see if it is done. That's weird. That is really weird. Okay, so I'll just be playing this. Okay, I'm gonna cut it right now until it's done. So I'll see you guys in a second. Hey guys, so at this point, I'm done building the Create React app, and it took me about 10 minutes, so pretty long. And first of all, it is likely that after you do create React app, you can see function here in the app.js file under the source. Change the class, and you have to import component like this. So, and then erase the things in the middle. So if you're new to React, and then you have done HTML before, and you have done JavaScript before, you might be a little bit puzzled because you can see HTML tags here being integrated and combined with stuff like return and render, which are clearly seems to be written in JavaScript syntax. So yeah, normally, and I remember, I think the React docs has the perfect explanation for this. So normally if you were to create a JavaScript application from the ground up, you would have the HTML stuff in one file, and then you have all the other logic and JavaScript stuff in another file or in another place. They're like split up, right? And then when you have to do stuff, you do document.getElementID and to grab the HTML tag and then manipulate changes on that, which is insanely, well, I guess it works, and it still works, right? But for the folks at Facebook, they thought this was insanely not optimized. It is not optimized, I should say. So they came up with a way that you can just integrate these together. And what you're seeing right now is a JavaScript class, but in its return function, it's returning HTML stuff. And this is the stuff being rendered really. And we can see that with, so this is just a class, that means, and the reason that this is being rendered, right, we have an input right here, is because somewhere we must be rendering the app, and then we go to index.js, and then we see, oh, React DOM.render, the app components, and then yeah, this wherever we render in the HTML root. So let me show you guys a little example to get more detailed into React. There's this perfect balance with scripting language. I mean the scripting, the logic, the handling with the templating language, right? The front end, the UI. And with the React components, aka React classes, you have this thing called the state inside of every single class that you can set, and you can have individual objects in the state, like maybe the translation output. And the interesting thing is you can combine the JavaScript stuff and integrate it inside of the HTML, right? Inside of these HTML tags, just by simply opening up a bracket, and then you can do this dot state dot translation output. Oh. Output's a placeholder. Now let's do something a little bit cooler. Let's and there's also different ways to do it. Like you can do const. People usually write it this way, so you do const output text equals to this dot state dot translation output, and then right here you just do output text. And doing it this way doing it this way also allows one good thing, which is that you can do a lot of if else's and a lot of logic right here. Versus in the return statement, you cannot just write. You actually cannot just write if blah 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 else. You can only write it in a ternary expression, which is something like the condition, then this, else that, which can get a little bit heavy sometimes. But anyways, let's render the output text, and then let's do something with the events. We're gonna do an on-click event, and then on click of this, we're gonna do some action, and this action is going to be binded to the app component, and that's why it says this dot handle click. And now this is apps handle click, so we can come down here and then give app a handle click. We're going to make this an arrow function. By arrow function, I mean this little thing right here. Now if you make it a normal function, like with the actual function syntax inside, so you actually manually write function handle click, that is fine too, but you have to bind it inside of the constructor, or else it is not recognized as apps function. But with the arrow function, that it is implicitly understood as. So let's do, you're gonna see another method that is used a million times in every single reactJS application, which is setState. We're gonna set it to changed. I don't know. You better expect when I press that, it changes to changed. So what just happened? You don't, for React setState is React special function. You never want to do this dot state dot equals to changed. This works. I'll show you guys that this works. Actually, we need to do the translation output. This will work. Actually, also if you do this dot force update, then this will work. But this is simply not good practice. The React docs, the first thing it says about setState is that never manipulate the state directly. And this dot force update is usually not is not usually the best practice. If you just, that usually indicates that you do something wrong. Anyways, so use the setState function. Again, the setState function changes the state inside of a component, which in turn determines something different to be rendered in a templating language. So what does this have to do with all of the things we're going to be doing today? First of all, how much time do we have left? 7 minutes and 29. We'll go about like 5 more minutes. Well, this is the same thing that we're going to be building with the application. We have an input form, and then we have an output. So actually at this point it is done already. I can just add a button right here. And we can add a button just with a button HTML tag. Click me to translate. And then, if I click that, I can give the onClick function to this guy. And then what happens on click is that in here, we're going to send an API request to our Flask backend with the English input data. Should be defined to return the translated words. I don't know. Okay, so that's all we're going to be doing, right? If you think about it, we're going to be sending our English thing to the backend, because the backend is Python, and the Python you can install Keras to load our model, which is the model.h5 file, and then we can just do model.predicts the data that is in here, and then we can send the predicted German back to the front end. But a few things with this that we have implemented. First of all, how do we send API request to the backend, right? That's the first problem. And the second problem is that how do we send along with it the English input data? So to do that, first of all, you need to know two things. Actually, I forgot what I said, but I think I talked about API request and then the form data. So API requests are, in this case, are just HTTP requests, and what they are is that they're just these things that you see often: gets, post, put, deletes. There should be a lot more. I don't believe there's an update because I think put is for update, but there are more than this. And then you can send a request like this. Backend has a matching has a matching header. I mean, not header. Has a matching. I don't know how to describe this. Has a matching type. So if the backend also says post or get, they're gonna trigger whatever is in that. I think I wrote it in here a little bit. Yeah, this post thing. But this post requires you to send an address to this thing right here. So how do we actually send the API request to that address? You're gonna be using fetch libraries, API request libraries, I should specify. And one API request library is fetch. You actually don't have to import it. You just fetch. Or you can do Axios. And I'm sure you've heard of many like Ajax. Yeah. But with the Chrome browser, personally, when I was messing with Axios, I had to run into a few Node.js Axios to reach my backend for some reason. But so we're gonna be using fetch, and then we're just gonna be on with it. We just do first of all, method equals to post, and for a post method means that you send data along with this HTTP request to the endpoint. A get method means that you're not sending anything to the backend endpoint, and a put is actually the exact same thing as post, but usually people use put for updating stuff, and we tend to use post for creating new stuff in the backend. So for example, creating a new user and saving it to the database, we tend to use post. But if we're updating a user field, we could use post, right, to send data along, but people usually use put. And then delete is just delete. So the method is going to be post, and here's the key thing: we're going to have a body. Inside of the body, we can contain whatever we want, and then in the server, in the backend, we can retrieve this body and get the information inside. You want to have it as a key to value pair. So we're gonna have something like English this.state.translation English inputs, which we're going to create in a second. So first of all, and then second of all, how do we even get this? How do we even get the data from the input so that we can put it in here, right? That's the second problem for the React beginners. So in other words, how do we access stuff from here to over here, which seems to be in different locations? That is going to be done with a magical state. From here, we're going to write an onChange function. And this is going to be a little bit different because this is called an anonymous function. Just follow the syntax, and then we're going to do. Actually, let me not make it an anonymous function. It's kind of too much information. This dot change input. And then up here, as we did earlier, handle input change, make it an arrow function. Then we gotta pass in the event object, which is automatically passed in. unless you didn't specify it. Then we can just do this set state English inputs with the events.target.value. So right off the bat, I think if it was me learning this for the first time, I would have the following few questions. First of all, why is there event here but there is no event here? The answer to that is because right here we're passing a reference to this thing. We're not passing the function itself, so we're not actually calling handle input change. So therefore we don't have to define the parameters. And it comes here, and it comes up here to find the requirements, right? And in this case we have the events, and this onChange thing has an event that can be passed in, and then we choose to pass it in. Second of all, I guess I will ask what is event.target.value. Now the input tag, if it has triggered a function on the input, you can always just do event.target.value to get the current value in the input tag. So to test this, we're going to be logging. Actually, let me do something right like this. You can always address stuff in the state directly, like this.state dots blah blah blah. You don't have to do this.get state, right? There is a set state, but there is no get state. We can log the console or log the English input. And I'm writing a function like this because this is a callback function, and the reason I do it like this instead of writing here console.log.this.state.English input is because setting state is asynchronous, which means there's a chance that after I type in set state and I do console.log stuff here, the state is not finished being set because these two trigger at the same time. Or this is triggered, but that one is the time that I console log, this is still not finished, I should say. So let me type stuff here. Go to info. Alright, so every time I type stuff, indeed stuff shows up. And quick example, if I were to just do console.log this.state.English input, I believe it is going to be one step behind. The console, whatever is in the console, is going to be one step behind. Do something wrong here because setting state is asynchronous. And indeed, right, by the time I typed 2 F's, it's only 1 F. So okay, that was a little brief intro to React, I suppose. It's been 18 minutes now. Oh man, I've been dragging too long. But in the next video, we're gonna be creating our Flask backend, and then sending stuff to it from the front end. So see you guys in the next video. By the way, then instead of, so what we're gonna be doing is to have the address and then method post. Let me just write this down right now so I don't forget later. And the body is gonna be input text, and it's gonna be the this.state.English input. Okay, so see you guys in the next video. Hey guys, back at it again. I have to talk kind of lightly in this video because it is 3 a.m. right now, but I'm still up, partially because I still have my jet lag. Anyways, in this part, we're going to be building the Flask endpoints. And first of all, create a server file if you haven't done so. A server folder actually, under the WebML translator main app. Now, I don't know why I have this podcast thing, but here's what we're gonna do. Okay. Now create a file called app.py, app.py. This is going to be our Flask app, and this is where the model is going to be loaded, the neural translation is going to be predicted, it's going to be ran through the neural network, and this is where the endpoints are existing. So first of all, I have a lot of packages to import. I'm just going to copy and paste the stuff that we're going to be importing, and I'll go over a few of them, what they are. So Flask, of course, is the framework, right? So we can ignore these. Well, I guess I have to talk about Flask REST Plus. REST is, you know, this right here is a library for you to make API endpoints in Flask relatively easy. You can basically make models with the Flask REST Plus app, and then kind of make your kind of use class. So we're going to be using classes to build the endpoints. It's going to be you guys will understand when I show it. Delete this, didn't need this. Keras, the model, load model, because this model was trained in Keras. So yeah, you gotta use the Keras models, load model to load it. You need TensorFlow because TensorFlow is Keras' backend. We can ignore the utils for now. Haven't made that file. Okay. Have the rest. This Flask course we don't need right now, but we will need in a second. And I don't know why I have 2 TFs, but let me delete one of them. Okay. So first of all, here's how you make a Flask app. You just do Flask app equals to Flask name. And then next, here's how you make a sort of the Flask app and turn it into like the API endpoints. You just use this thing right here from the Flask REST Plus, and you do API. And then you can put in a few things. And a description maybe if you want, but you don't have to. Now, there's something called namespace. And what the namespace does is you can imagine it as kind of the proxy that we talked about earlier in the one of the videos in the front end. You can imagine it as a proxy. You're going to insert something here. Like for ours, I'll just call it prediction or something like that. And then what this allows you to do is later you can just do in front of your, before your main class, you can do add namespace dot routes that. And so by doing this thing right here, whenever your front end makes the API call to prediction, it is going to be understood that we're going to go to namespace, and then we go to wherever namespace routes to determine when it's being ran. I think it's all going to come together when we actually finish the whole script, so just follow along. App model equals to app.model, and I'm looking at my old code right now, and you can find this code in the link description below if you don't want to type all of this. I think I'll post it when I have time. Actually, let's just do false just in case I accidentally missed it. Okay. So it's not auto-compiling. Okay. Anyways, as I said earlier, we're going to do namespace.route this, and this is really just some URL design, the API backend design, where everything's going to go. You know, you might have something like users, right? You might have an endpoint that is totally deal with users, so that might start with users, and you have another endpoint that's maybe like predictions, and that will start with prediction, and then individually for the prediction namespaces, we're going to trigger whatever is under here. Yeah, whatever. Okay, so just copy this part, resource. Okay. Resource. Equals to request.json. We can print it in the form data, and this will show up in our console. In our terminal. And then we can send a response back to the front end. This is an important part. Earlier we talked about, you know, how if you send, you know, after you do a post, after you run the prediction, you want to send the results back to the front end, and this is where you send it back by doing response equals to JSON by status code 200, meaning that it is a success. Status actually just, and then the result is going to be, let's just send back whatever is sent to us. Yeah, and this is it for now. I'm actually not seeing any errors, so if I run this, it should work. I mean, it's not gonna work because I planned something. I plan to not change some code, but okay. So let me see. First of all, in the front end, we got to, yeah, I forgot about in the front end. In the front end, we got to, when I press click me to translate, we actually got to send the API request. And to do that, as I explained in the last video, we're going to use fetch. And the endpoint is going to be, let me actually just copy and paste it. And then, you can place some modifiers along with the fetch command. A few ones that you definitely need is headers. If you don't have this header thing right now, I believe that it will just not work. I don't know exactly why. So I should place a comma right here. And then the method is post. And when it's post, we gotta send something along, right? So we are actually gonna put that in the body, and then we're gonna do JSON.stringify. That is always good practice usually. This state dot English input, and this English input, where is this from? It is from it is whatever target value is in the input tag right here, because it is stored in this state. And let's actually just run this. I believe it should work. I mean, it's going to send the actual request, even though it might fail. Click me to translate. Oh, it actually worked, eh? What? I didn't expect this to work. Wait, that is extremely surprising. Oh, well, since that happened, I'm going to remove a lot of the disclaimers that I made in the beginning. I talked about how I'm going to use course, but now we don't. Course is just like an extra security layer, and sometimes when you're straight up calling a different origin from where you are right now, course is not going to accept your API calls, so you have to use another the flask course library to explicitly say whatever comes in, we accept it, and that's going to allow you to communicate. But for some reason, it was able to send to the thing. I'm pretty confused why it does. We can make some observance of, wait, oh, it's right here. Fetch is a promise-based syntax, has promise-based syntax. That means you have stuff like then, you have stuff like, yeah, you just have a lot of then and then chain commands. So this right here is saying that after you fetch it, then you might get some data. And if there are stuff passed back, we are going to console.log the res. That was weird. Okay, click again. Go back to console. As we can see right here, the response is indeed being returned, and we're not seeing anything. But remember, where is the thing? First of all, there's just something we have to do. You have to do the res.json, and then do the .then JSON-fied res. You know, you can name it whatever you want. I tend to name it long, just so I have a clear idea, especially when I'm doing tutorials, right? I have a clear idea of what's going on. Now it's JSON-fied. We can now console.log this again, maybe. Yep, so at this point we can see the result, the status, and the status code. So we can get the result by doing JSON-fied res.result. And at this point I should be able to do something, click meter translate, and it's going to return. Why is it returning high? Did I make it high? Wait a second. That is kind of weird. Where is the high coming from? So no highs found. No highs found. Where is this coming from? Is it result that I should be printing? Seems like it is. Let me go back to what I was doing. I'm a little bit puzzled at this point. I thought this was able to show. Oh, why is it high? Alright, I'm gonna cut the video and come back to you guys when I solve the problem. Hey guys, we're all good at this point again. Turns out, I think it's something, well, I changed a few things. First of all, I realized that I never returned a response. Second of all, I realized that I think I missed like the help description or something that you must have. Yeah, so check these. I think I made a few modifications. Yeah. So now I forgot what I was talking about. Oh, I still don't know why it was showing high. It was showing high. Maybe that was a place. Maybe that was a. First of all, why is this not working either? Ah, it's in the console. But maybe that was a placeholder text. It says failed loading. That's a little bit troublesome. Okay, so finally the error that I was talking about showed up, and I'm pretty happy about it. Or else that means, you know, maybe some deeper problems exist. So talking about the course problem I had earlier, I talked about earlier, I meant, you know, you cannot fetch origin to another origin without meeting the course policy. And to bypass that, we're going to define our backend. We basically say, whatever can come in, can come in. And to do that, it's really simple. It's just this one line code. Now it works. Okay, that works. So now we know how to call something. So that was actually a lot of stuff that we just did. You can make any websites now, to be honest, right? Because any websites you need a front end and back end, and you just gotta make it a little bit more complex than this. You just gotta read a little bit more code about REST. Flask REST Plus, you might figure out other libraries might be a lot better than Flask REST Plus in order to make the backend, because it might have more documentation, or it's easier to deploy, whatever. But we got it right here. So I'm gonna see you guys in the next video where we will be actually implementing. Open this up in a window. Oh no, not the window. Oh man, in the Explorer. Okay, it is already opened. Wait, what? Where is this thing? No, this is not right. So open it up and then go to the server. Now we need to get access to the model H5 thing, to the model that we trained. So we can come over here. It is trained under Web Google Translate. Oh, and that's in a totally different directory. I'm just finding my stuff, but locate this, just copy and then paste it here. And then now we get access to the H5. There's gonna be a few things that the code doesn't seem to be intuitive, but it's just a lot of getting around things. So really logically, you see that we have a keyword.loadModel function, and you can really just be able to do NLP model or translation model equals to load model.h5. But there is going to be a few problems when you do that. I'm not going to show you guys the actual what happens, but there are a few things that you have to do to bypass the weird stuff that happens when you load the model in the Flask endpoint, in the Flask app. Translator model, and then we gotta do global graph, and then do graph equals tf.get. Again, I don't even understand what these code mean. I mean, like, their names kind of make some sense, but like, what does it really mean? That's it. It's like a default graph. Well, I mean, what does it really mean to clear session? Because clear session is the one that doesn't make that much sense. Now, if we go back to thinking about how this was trained, I mean, the training process is really the same thing as the testing process, at least how it's ran through the neural network, right? So in the training process, we had to convert these, remember the keywords tokenizer library, we had to fit on text these original English lines onto, and make them tokenized, which means converting them to integers, whatever. And then, and then at that point, you can run it through the neural network. But we need to know how to tokenize these. And with that, we need to get the tokenizers, which we don't right now. Good morning, guys. How is it going? I'm back at it again and bringing you guys positive energy. Alright. That was really cringy, wasn't it? It's my way. We have the model right now, and it seems like we can just do model dots translation equals to model dot predict German input, and then return that in the JSON-fied response. But that's not it, because we forgot two steps. If we just do that, we have to tokenize the input to the neural network, and then we run predict. But then also when the output comes out, we also got to untokenize the tokenized output. So let's do that. First of all, before we even get into the tokenized version, to tokenize it, we have to put it into an array, which is I don't know how to name this. Ready for tokenizes. np.array German input, and then, well, we don't have the tokenize. We have the tokenizer, but where is the function that tokenizes? We can get it from here. It should just be an encode sequence that does this, if I'm not trolling. Not encode output. Encode sequence definitely does this. And encode sequence, does it need any other helper methods? First of all, let me create a new file called utils.py where I can import encode sequences. What else do we need? We don't need max length, because we we can just manually input the max length, and the max length is used for padding the input, because we want to pad it to the longest word possible, because it is a fixed sized input. And if it's like a 6-letter word, but there is the max in the dataset is 10, then we would just put like 4 zeros or something similar to the end. Create tokenizer. Well, we have the tokenizer already, but there should be something else. Where is the predict? And then train the. Oh, we never tested our dataset. Oh, we never tested our dataset. Okay. Well, we can come here. I'll come back to the tutorial. Go to evaluate neural translation model, and then copy and paste. Well, we gotta load all the packages probably, and then well, we have encode sequences. We do need word for ID so that we map the integers to the word. Yeah, we definitely need predict sequence. That should be it. And sorry guys, if you were more on the side of trying to like do, if you were more interested in doing machine learning, this tutorial, is definitely not that machine learning. It turns out that I just copy and paste most of the things, but it just mainly serves to the purpose of quickly integrating things in the web, right? Because it's just really some special syntaxes that you have to use, and it's like a one-time learning deal. And after you do this one, for every single one of your ML applications, you can just use this template. But there's a few things that you have to correct. For example, you don't want to use cores at all. And to bypass that, let's try bypassing this later, but not right now. I mean, to be able to not use the open up cores command. Anyways, this should be it. I don't know when I imported this, but okay. So ready for tokenize, and let's do tokenized neural network input is encode sequences, and we definitely need the tokenizer to encode. So it's German to English. And we definitely need the max length, which is 10. I memorized. Also, what do we need? Oh, we need the actual input. And let me see if that is right. Tokenizer length lines. Correct. And now we can run it through the neural network, and then this method incorporates both running it through the neural network and also translating the tokenized output to a normal German word. So to the normal English version. So translation equals to predict sequence. We need to put in the model. We need to put in the tokenizer. And we need to put in the source, of course. Let me see if that is correct. That is correct. So at this point, it should be it. I don't see an error with this, which means maybe we're good. There's something we have to do. I forgot how to write this. Is it like wrap dot is command? I mean, is default. This is just a TensorFlow thing. Like, to be honest, I don't know. I never use TensorFlow, I always use Keras. But I don't know why in this one, it has so much to mess with the TensorFlow side. I mean, Keras is indeed, part of TensorFlow, but on top of TensorFlow, but I still use so we can run it. Let's exit out everything just to be sure, and then do flask run. Oh, by the way, if you're not using Windows, I think it's not flask run. It's something like, it's a little bit different. Like you got to do export flask app equals to first of all, versus on Windows you do set flask app equals to, and then maybe it's also flask run, but I'm not sure. It says that we don't have this package, so let's just remove it. Work. Okay. So I have a German word right here. This is supposed to say, "Hallo, mein friend," which translates to, "Hello, my friend." Translation is not defined. Probably typed something wrong. Man, I used to be the spelling bee champion of my house, and now got a little bit worse. Oh, I'm not printing anything here, so perhaps it shows up in here. And it prints no for some reason. So what I did wrong was didn't put in a German. I put in German input here instead of ready for tokenize. And that was why I was printing no all the time. Anyways, so I translated "hello, mein Freund," and it prints out "where's dog." So I'm both excited and concerned about this output, because that means when I'm trying to tell my translator app, I'm trying to tell our German fellow, "Hello, my friend," I'm gonna say, "What's up, dog?" Or "Where's dog?" which is not the most polite conversation initiator. However, the exciting part is that the German is indeed translated to English, even though it's not the most desired English. So with that being said, let's try a few more examples. First of all, I don't know any German, so I have to actually use Google Translate itself, which is the application I'm trying to emulate, and then insert the text here. First, water, Wasser, and hopefully this is really fly. Highly likely because my buddy haven't seen enough words, my motto, so it says doesn't recognize it. What is something that the dictionary definitely saw? Oh, I can just go to the dictionary. And then wasn't there yeah, so this is the English this is from the dictionary itself. And so if I input anything from here, it better work. Grugat. Supposed to translate a hi, that's kind of weird. That results in hi. Oh, let's try one more. Ich rannte. I ran. Okay, I even got the past tense right. Ich schwamme. I swim. Alright, so it remembers, but if I go longer, if I go a longer sentence, I doubt that it's going to function that well. Well, anyways, that is it, really. But I guess in the next video, now we're going to run it through the neural network. And now the only difference between this and Google Translate is, first of all, Google Translate is owned by Google. And then second of all, this neural network is extremely poor. It has only seen 10,000 English to German word pairs, which is, if we contextualize that is like what? I would say that's like a mini chapter in a English novel. So how much examples is that? That is not enough words for the for the dictionary to, for the model to know what is what. And second of all, I believe in Google Translate they definitely have some programming besides just machine learning, which means it is going to correct itself of the most basic errors. It might have like a grammar detector, like when the English word is printed out. If the English output itself does not make sense in grammatically, it's going to correct itself. So it has an extra layer of translation that is done by algorithmically programming it, instead of just throwing it blindly into a machine learning neural network. So I will see you guys in the next video to update the UI a little bit better. Yeah. Hey guys, welcome back to the last part of the tutorial. The last time I worked on this tutorial was quite a while ago, so I'm not sure if this code right here is what I actually typed from last time. I definitely know that this div right here I didn't type last time. I do not know if this get translation and we fetch in the API is what I did last time. So if this is not what we did, please just copy this code and I'll explain in a second, just in case I didn't go over it. But also if I just explain it a little bit more, maybe you'll get it, you'll understand APIs, HTTP requests a little bit more, and just the whole reactJS thing, supposedly. So I guess I'll just actually just start explaining. Now my ID is a little bit slow, but I can work with that. We're fetching to the, okay, I forgot about this project. It's funny how you can look at a piece of code and you cannot remember like at all when did you write that, or like why did you write that. But if you look at a meme and it has been posted before, you'll recognize it immediately, and you'll go on to the comments and say that was a reposted meme, right? You reposted from someone else. So I don't know why I wrote localhost, but usually you don't want the localhost in the fetch API address that you write yourself, because first of all, it's going to be dynamic, right? And second of all, you want to be using proxies in React because you don't know where you're going to be deploying this website in. And right now, this website is on localhost, but in the future, it might be on www.roadmappedia.com, and go visit that site if you haven't, because it's a really amazing website. But it also might be a lot of other websites, right? Like, I don't know. So this got to be dynamic, so I don't know why I put the origin. It might have because of a problem in the Node.js and the in the proxies. Maybe the proxies themselves didn't work. But let me see. Yeah, the proxy is working, and therefore I don't know what it is that is stopping us from. It might have been a CORS error. Okay, so the reason I will probably put a localhost is because either for testing purpose or that the proxy is not working. And if the proxy is not working, that means in the backend I must have set up no CORS. So let me verify that there are no CORS. And yeah, I definitely set up CORS, so which means the proxy probably just didn't work. So guys, usually we'll use React's proxy to be routing things to the right address. If you're gonna do a fetch to another origin, immediately the CORS error will trigger. The proxy will get around this, and that's why if we use the proxy, we can get rid of this part. And by the way, if you deploy it, just imagine a deployer as kind of like a compiler, and it's going to correctly route your APIs to some address, right? So even if you write proxy localhost 5000 in the proxy in package.json, it's actually not going to matter. The compiler is going to compile them. I don't know the exact math behind it, but it's going to compile it into something else. It's going to be routing into the actual address, right? So no worries after this. But this is definitely not acceptable on deployment. So but the reason I did it was probably because the proxy wasn't functioning. And if it's not functioning, we want to be actually sending to the address. And if we're sending to this address, the CORS error will trigger because we're sending it from localhost 3000, which is where our UI is hosted on, and we're sending this to localhost 5000, and the CORS is going to be, oh, wait up, the origin is different. 3000 does not equal to 5000. By the way, again, the proxy just is able to get around this problem. Even though we're still sending from 3000 to 5000, the proxy can get over this problem. If you just directly call it, it is not. And so I had to set up CORS in the app.py, which is our backend, I suppose, and basically explicitly say whatever comes in is fine, let it in. And of course we're sending a post request, and I assume the post request body is coming in with we're sending along the English input because I suppose we want the German output to be showing, right? Then this part right here is definitely just an input, is the input that we are handling before we send the form data to the backend. This is the part that we type in our English, and when we press a button, the button is going to send along whatever is handled here. All right, so let me now. So if we're going to clients, be really careful. We don't want to be in web ML translator. We want to be in the client part, and we just do npm run start. Then hopefully this works. Haven't worked on this in a while, and I'm not sure if I named it npm run start in my React scripts, but I suppose I created this app with create React app, so this should work. Okay, it feels like this is showing the final thing. It's kind of weird. Let me type in the English. Hello, my friend. But I forgot a really important thing, which is to serve the backend. Because we'll also be serving the backend. Right now it's not running on localhost 5000, so nothing is happening, and I didn't write in an error to say that if the endpoint doesn't work, what we're gonna do. But in the console, if you open it up, it should appear to be an error. So we go to, it's not gonna be client, it's gonna be server. That's what we named our package. And if I remember correctly, we gotta do set flask app equals to app.py. Okay, so set flask app on Windows, I believe in Linux and Mac, you got to do something else. I believe is export, but don't. But if you're not sure, read the documentation, right? That's always the best tip. Set flask app equals to app.py. Maybe we can just go flask run app. Flask run. Oh, I think it's just flask run. Yeah. Okay, this should work. So I think I'm supposed to see like a compiling error. Yeah, that's fine. No, that's not my problem. Okay, and when I send here, I suppose this text area is going to show the results, which it did not, unfortunately. I pressed enter right there, but nothing happened. So, two possibilities. Either I didn't handle that on... Yeah, nothing seems to be sending. Oh, by the way, the reason that there's nothing here, but there is something here is because I didn't save this file, and the last time I saved... the last time I saved, it had the inputs. So let me go back to the inputs and delete. Alright, this is really laggy today. Maybe it's my Discord. Get rid of my Discord. And then get rid of... I need Chrome. It's kind of weird. My laptop is charging perfectly, and it's set to best performance. Well, nevertheless, I can still do something. God, this is really horrible. All right. Well, I guess I'm gonna change it up a little bit because I don't want to be doing too much addition. I'm really certain that I did not type the front end stuff right here. I think I worked on this after I filmed the last video, which is on backend. Can't be sure about that either. Anyways. HTML is not the focus in our tutorial. JavaScript, reactJS, and machine learning is the focus of our tutorial right here. So I'm not going to be going over this HTML code, but I will be... Oh, I kind of just contradicted myself as I'm not going to be going over
what I meant is I'm not going to be coding along with you guys, but I'm going to be explaining what this does. We have a header. This is just a simple header tag. Think of HTML just as like a markup language, just like how in Reddit, if you type like 3 asterisks, you start the code, the language, the text that you map out is going to be in a special format. Or in Discord, if you type 3 dash, is going to be looking, the text that you enter is going to be looking like a code format. Same thing in HTML, right? If you add a tag, it's going to map out to a certain thing. So H1 right here is able to just make our text bigger. Now, really professionally, not a lot of people use H1, I suppose, because you want to be actually determining what exact size you want. So you might be using CSS, right? Properties that you can just explicitly set what the font size you want to be. And then we have these native HTML tags. There's an input tag and there's a text area tag. The input tag is really simple. By nature, is able to be, you're able to type something in it, but no events is going to be it's going to be happening unless you define it to have an event. Now in HTML, and well, in reactJS especially, because in HTML it's going to be looking like a string. But in reactJS you can just do the event names are really intuitive. So on key down means that something is going to happen when we type something, and a function called handle input change is going to trigger. So if we come here and handle input change, right, by the way, this is referring to this whole class. So handle input change is belonging to the class because I mean, let me get one step back. Handle input change belongs to the only way that this handle input change is going to be called is if there's a function called handle input change is also going to be belonging to the same class as this input tag. This input tag is belonging to this class app. You cannot see perfectly because the code is not formatted, but it will be looking like that render is going to contain this whole thing, and then the app is going to be containing the render method. And handle input change belongs to app 2 because it is listed under there. But actually, if you write a normal function, you have to explicitly say that this function here belongs to app. But since we're using an arrow function, which means we're actually literally typing an arrow here, right? There's a enter and then a bracket sign that automatically binds our stuff. So on key down, stuff is going to change. We're going to be passing an event parameter here, and we're going to be changing the state in our app right here called translation output. Actually, we're going to be setting a state called English input, which is not even set at the beginning. We're supposed to type right here English input is instantiated to be maybe just a blank string, but again my ID is kind of frozen, so I'm not going to be doing that. The style tag is allows you to just put in some style. It's pretty intuitive. Value is able to show the value, even though it kind of shows without it anyways. Style again. Now these styles are what is keeping these in the middle. If you just get rid of all of these, this input will be right here, and this text area should be right here. But using display block, margin left auto, margin right auto is able to put stuff in the middle. And with text area, you cannot do exactly like that. I mean, with text area, you gotta make a few more modifications if you do exactly what you want. For example, resize equals none allows this block to be. Usually, text area has a little. I think it has a little button right here, a little drag thing right here. And you can drag it around to actually resize the thing, but you don't want that, right? You want the container to be a really fixed thing. So now if we type stuff here. Oh yeah, this I haven't set it to work. Something, yeah. So okay, we still have one last thing. Realize that get translation is the last function, is the function we actually need to be showing, to be sending the stuff to the backend API and to put it through the neural network and get the results back, right? But there's nothing doing that. So where should we, how should we handle this? Well, there should be an event in input that, oh, never mind guys, it was implemented. right here on key down, if the event code is 13, which corresponds to the insert key, we run get translation. Sorry guys, I did not catch that. But what is puzzling me is why this is nothing is showing when I press the insert key. That is very odd. Maybe I need to refresh it. I doubt it. Maybe there's an error in the backend. Let's try hello my friend. Yeah, nothing's working, but I'm really certain that if you guys... Oh, never mind, something was sent. Oh, yeah, it came back. It came back. Yeah, that's it guys. Let me see how long this video. I'm not gonna talk for too long, but just as a final word, thanks for you guys a lot for finishing the series. You know, I have been just recently starting to explore my interest in making YouTube videos. Right, I've been doing websites a lot, but now I've been realizing to make an impact to the fellow developers. So you know, it's pretty interesting for me to make my sort of first full-length tutorial. Beforehand, I have made tutorials, but they're generally shorter and they're generally documentative based. And generally speaking, and some of them that I have filmed, or like one that I was going to make a graphical editing tool, like a mini Photoshop. I wasn't able to finish it because I had some side projects going on. But thanks a lot, guys. You watching this video, finishing this video, is huge support to me, and hopefully you learned a lot in this video too. And remember, if you're the type of person that, you know, just constantly in tutorial hell, which means that you take this tutorial, you jot down the things, and then the second day you wake up, oh, you're like, fuck, I cannot remember anything I learned. Don't worry about that. My advice for you to get the most out of this video is to implement something on your own too. Like, you can always, like, right now, that hour or 2 hours you just spent right there is incredible to your incredible to expand your knowledge, right? Because now, even if you don't know like how to implement websites, ML in websites, you can always come back to this video and use this as a reference. But if you want to keep this in your head forever, I would suggest you to it's fine to look at the boilerplate code, right? Like the boilerplate code of how to set up the Flask REST Plus APIs. If you don't know Python, oh yeah, I never gave a minor Python tutorial. It's probably intuitive though. Then go do that, right? Like, go set up the little REST Plus, and then maybe if you're an ML engineer, training models should be a piece of cake to you, and just use something different. Maybe use sklearn to make a model, and then use joblib to load the model instead of pickle. So it kind of changes things up, and perhaps that kind of strengthens your memory and actually works the neural network in your actual brain, right? Not training these neural networks artificially, these artificial neural networks. And on the reactJS side, I suppose you guys can really get this stuck to your head if you really just read the React documentation, and then change the front end a little bit, right? Learn how to write this a little bit different. You can write this class app as a function. Read some tutorials, more tutorials. I mean, yeah, but that is one way to get things stuck in your mind, and good stuff to be stuck in your mind. Now, as a final note, I want to go over again what we all learned in this short. I don't know actually how long this is. Probably 1 hour or 2 hours, but we first started. I believe we copy and pasted a lot of the code for training the neural machine translation model from English to German. We figured that we had to clean the dataset. We had to split the text into lines, you know, to make them to put them into lists, and to have the X dataset and the Y dataset to be split. We wanted to split the datasets into 80%, 20%, because we want a training set and testing set. So then in the testing set, we can maybe improve the model a little bit. And then we had to tokenize all of the words, right? Because all of these are strings. All of these are 32-bit I think Python uses 32-bit 32-bit to represent the strings, each letter in the strings. So all of these are strings, but we want to map them into actual integers that actually sort of convey a meaning, right? Because you cannot, even though strings are representative, I think I went off a little bit track there, but even though strings are integers in a way, right? They're stored as integers, but they cannot be exactly trained in a neural network. You cannot just throw them into a neural network, right? Because a neural network still reads them as a high level thing, and it reads the strings as just strings. When it gets to the assembly and the machine code, of course, it turns into integers. But we had to tokenize it, right? We tokenize it. Now we can put it into the neural network, and then we train the neural network for 20 epochs or whatever epochs. Turns out our machine model is not even good at all because we only had 10,000 examples or something like that. It's fine. Add more data. The only reason deep learning and neural machine translation has been doing good since 2015 is because of, first of all, the invention of deep learning, and second of all, the fact that we just have more and more data. We just have more data, right? So then we save this whole model thing as a model.h5 file, and now we can put the model into our backend. We just literally drag it into our server, and then we set up the flask. We give it endpoints. It's really slow loading this. We give it endpoints, and then we had to do a little bit of dance right here to make sure we don't get some bugs. We had to do the global translation model. For some reason, I personally still don't know. It was just some TensorFlow bug that you're just supposed to go on GitHub to search for. And then you had to load the tokenizers again because we have to encode our inputs before putting into the neural network to run it through and to get the response. Set up course, and then in the post command, in the post command, some person from the front end or some person from some other places might be calling to your endpoint, and the address that they should be calling you at is /prediction, and with a method of post. As you can see right here, we don't see prediction, but right here, namespace. So namespace is what defines the URI to be called. So then in the app.js, we actually are able to send in stuff to that location. And what are we sending in? We're sending in a just straight up a string, right? We're just straight up sending a string. It is even stringified by JSON. It's a string that is stringed, because English input should just be a normal string, but JSON not stringify is sort of the convention, sort of. Even though it does hurt performance a little bit, of course. And then app.py says, thank you, you just fed me something. And then we get that input from the front end or some other APIs calling us from request.json, right? And then we say ready for tokenize. We put it through the tokenizer. Then at last we use predict sequence, which is already written in that neural machine translation tutorial. And then at last we return the response. The front end app says, okay, now I get the response from your backend, and then we can put it into after we get the response right here, res.json, then resified res response, and then we set the translation output state as the JSON result. And right here in the text area, the value is the translation output. So the value in the text area is whatever we got back from the backend. That's it for the video, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope you guys have an amazing day. Keep working, keep grinding. Make sure you don't just watch this tutorial and just forget it forever, right? It's always good that you have a reference now in the back of your hand, but always, try to implement more things, try to be more creative, and just keep working. So thank you guys.